back-to-back goalies, a few forwards mixed in there. So, whenever you're making decisions like this that are going to take time and, there's ups and downs, and some players will exceed expectations and some will miss. Ended up with 10 picks, so that was important to us.
When you take the job, John, obviously you know what it is coming in, but how much of there was the recognition that, wait a minute, we do have a cupboard here that isn't overly brimming and we have to get back to filling it somehow?
I think anytime you take a job, there's always pros and cons of any situation. I would say in this situation, there's some elite players. Those are the hardest things to get. But my job as manager is to balance the short term and the long term. And, today we did some things that certainly feel like helped us in the long term. And they're long-term bets, and they'll take time. And simultaneously, we're trying to do some things in the short term here to put the best team on the ice next season that we possibly can for the fans.
Are there traits you're looking for in some of those D skating, it seemed like?
Yeah, I think the team overall has been really focused on smart, competitive players that can move the puck, play with the puck, possess the puck, escape, forecheck, and make a play. Quick decisions. Guys that more make a play enjoying the rush instead of always leading the rush. But definitely, emphasis on puck moving and mobility.
When every year we ask, people say they always take the best player available at that slot. I'm just curious though, when it comes to goalies, is the goalie the best player available in that spot, or is it somebody going, hey, you know what, we should get a goalie or two in this draft?
No, No, it's a good question. I think for us, it's an important position, obviously, and it's a high variance position, and so you got to place your bets. Curtis McElhaney oversees that, and I thought he was pretty judicious in kind of how he laid out the draft and where he thought that the opportunities were, and just the way the board fell and where he kind of valued the goaltending this year. We went back to back. I'd say it's pretty unique. It wasn't how we kind of wrote it up. But I think when you have these kind of rigid rules, I think some teams that I've been around, they say, well, you're going to take a goalie every year, or they're not going to take goalies at this stage or that stage. I think you want to have flexibility. Certainly you have principles and you know the odds, but at the same time, every pick is unique. And so having some flexibility to how you approach things, I think matters, and I think that's what we did.
Given how the free agency market is shaping up, how active do you expect being on Wednesday?
Well, I think we're going to, try to make the team better. I think that's an avenue for us, and today we created more flexibility even with the move. So, I think it's a balance of these things, and we're going to be disciplined and do things that help us and help the team in the short and long term. I think Darren Radish was an example of that, and certainly we felt that the pick was worth it to secure the player and not get into some bidding war. So. There's some players we like, there's some needs we have, and we'll be aggressive, but we'll also make sure that, we're not doing anything to hurt the future.
Is there a priority if you come out on Wednesday and say, okay, this is what I want specifically? What is that?
I think, it's depth for the most part. I think there's a few holes that we have, but we're going to be really focused on the depth early and see if we can, round out the roster. And then, again, there's some bigger swings that we'll take and look at some things, but ultimately it's a two-sided marketplace, and there's smart agents out there that are trying to maximize the value for their players as well. And, we're going to, like I said, be disciplined in the marketplace and make sure we do our best to make the team as best as possible.
Would you anticipate another Radish-like sign and trade before the deadline, or?
I don't think so. No, I think we've looked at a lot of things, but as I stand here today, I think that's unlikely.
Would you like to add another goalie?
Look, we've got this really interesting goalie pipeline, and part of our evaluation is the young guys and what they've shown. So I think we're trying to balance that and balance. Anthony's been, by our models, a top goalie the last 2 years. Obviously, health and durability has been the question, but we can't guarantee that's going to be different on another goalie we bring in. That's always a bit of a question mark. So we're trying to find some balance in all of that, but it's a key position, and if there's a chance to make it better, like any position, we'll do that. But that's where we're at today.
I think it's Robertson, with Shelley Quillen and Andre that are RFAs. Are you going to qualify all four? Do you have decisions there? What's happening there?
We just got through the draft today, so no decisions made other than, there's some good players in there, and certainly retaining their rights is, important.
On goaltending, you did deal Urson away after acquiring him in that deal with Philly. Was it just wanting to give your goalies a chance, or just not figuring out a deal or a fit?
Yeah, just asset management. He was a part of the transaction, and to harvest another asset off of that transaction made a lot of sense for us. We talked to his camp about what it looked like, what the fit would be, what the contract could be, and I think ultimately just felt like it was better to acquire the asset.
It's been reported Mike Van Ryn is not coming back. Is that accurate, and is there anything else going on with the assistants right now?
Yeah, Jim's working through that all right now. I think Mike Van Ryan's a good coach. He's done a good job here for a while. It's possible he's with the organization in another role, but I'll leave that to Jim in terms of his decisions of how he puts the staff together. And we collaborate on some things, but ultimately it'll be his decision.
The Marlies goalies obviously made an impression, and we know what Easton Cowan can do. But beyond them, do you see some of the Marlies getting a chance to prove that they can be part of the solution here?
Yeah, that's the question that we're trying to answer as well. And we think that there are players that have shown that they have a right to be in the NHL. They earned it, and we're trying to create some flexibility. Today was an example of that, where there's going to be open competition. We want better flexibility throughout our lineup. We want guys to be able to come into camp and compete for spots, and who rises, that is really up to them. But we certainly think, given the performances and what those guys were able to do, really impressed by that.
How much say will you have in Devo camp in terms of guys coming, or is that all the development camp people decide?
Yeah, that's been pretty much set. So no, I mean the scouts and development folks will have collaborated on that, but usually those things have been set for months.